Somewhere deep in the mountains of Tohoku, in a forgotten village swallowed by time, there stands an old house. A house that's seen more winters than it should have. Some say it's abandoned. Some say it's haunted. Inside, there's an old radio. One that looks like it was last used during the war. Dusty, rusty, but somehow it still works. And tonight, it's transmitting again. Welcome to Static Scrolls and Sakura. I am Tayorinai Sensei, speaking to you from this lonely place, bringing you stories, truths, and myths about Japan. Tonight, we start at the beginning. What is Japan, really? You've seen the videos, the futuristic cities, the quiet temples, the endless rules people warn you not to break. But how much of it is real? How much of it is just noise? Japan has 47 prefectures. How many have you heard of? Most visitors stick to the same places, but there's a whole other side to this country, one that tourists rarely see. I've traveled from the neon streets of Tokyo to the quiet shores of Okinawa, and I'll tell you, Japan is not just one thing. And then there's the foreigners. Some come here in awe, expecting a cyberpunk utopia. Others treat it like a theme park, stirring up trouble. Once upon a time, being interested in Japan was very niche. Now, it's a trend. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. So let's tune out the static, unroll the scrolls, and look beyond the Sakura. Let's talk about Japan. Real Japan. I'm sitting in this old abandoned house in the middle of this, old and abandoned village that's deep in the mountains of the Tohoku region of Japan. That's in the northern area just below Hokkaido. I don't know when the last person left the village or died in the village, but there hasn't been a soul, a living soul, in this village for a long time. The house is being kept together by hopes and dreams, someone's hopes and dreams. And we are having strong winds tonight, and any one of those strong gusts of wind will knock the house over. And this radio, I don't know how it's still working. It probably hasn't been used since the war. And this house, like I said, is abandoned. I'm hoping it's abandoned. At least abandoned by the living. Japan is known for its ghosts, especially in the Tohoku region. So, kind of get this feeling I'm being watched. So, we'll see. But maybe I'm alone, maybe I'm not. But I'm here to talk about Japan. So, let's go on before the spirits get impatient. So Japan is made up of 47 prefectures. And most people think of the four main islands when they think of Japan. Hokkaido in the north, Honshu is the biggest island, Shikoku is the little small one, and then Kyushu brings up the bottom. But there's about 7,000 islands, and they're all over the place. And there are some so deep in the Pacific that you would not think that they're connected to Japan by any means, but they are, and some of them are even labeled as part of Tokyo. So, how many prefectures can you name? Can you name all 47? Can you name half of them? Now, I'm sure you've heard of a handful of them, like Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, Nara, maybe Hiroshima and Nagasaki from your history classes. Anything else? Well, Fukushima. Yeah, that would have made some headlines since 2011. Any other ones that you can name? So, Japan. Yeah, it's not just Tokyo, and not everyone here is a salaryman or a geisha, despite how the media will talk about it. So, everyday life in Japan, well, it's definitely not how the media portrays it. Every time somebody talks about Japan, or like they're impressed that I live in Japan, I always think of that two panel comic. And you got two guys in this comic, and one guy says, "Wow, you live in Japan?" And there's a thought bubble above him, and he's imagining Japan as one stereotypically thinks of Japan. You got Mount Fuji in the background, you got Godzilla, you got Tokyo Tower, Pikachu, you got the castles, um, and you got like Sakura, you got the Hello, Kitty, and you got sushi, karaoke, samurai, schoolgirls, pretty much everything that is, stereotypically Japan. And then the other guy says, "Yep," and his thought bubble is Japan more realistically. You got the school kids, in their uniforms. You got people standing outside the kombinis or convenience stores. You got the train on the Yamanote line, Starbucks, pachinko. Just the way that it looks like in real life. But also, it's not as futuristic as people think it is. People think it's like this high tech, especially Tokyo. People think it's like this high tech cyberpunk type city. Everyone's eating sushi every day and practicing ninja moves. Well, there might be people who actually do eat sushi every day, or there might be high school kids, playing around. But on a normal, normal day, the standard everyday person isn't doing that. I don't remember the last time I had sushi. Maybe a couple months ago. That's usually just because I don't have the time. But kaiten sushi, the conveyor belt sushi like sushiro, that is dangerous for my wallet because I've I can down about 30 plates, and that's about $1 a plate, so a little over $30. But yeah, sushi's expensive. Uh, but Japan is not as futuristic as one thinks. Um, yeah, there are futuristic parts about it. Like they do have robots that will cater to you. Like actually in the sushi restaurants, they kind of do have robots who will give you your seating info. But like a lot of they still do a lot of paperwork. Um, they still use fax machines. I hate the paperwork. Um, it's it's a chore to do anything in Japan, but it's an odd combination because Japan does pride itself in maintaining tradition, but I'm not sure if that applies to the the way they do things, like the fact that keeping fax machines around. And but it seems to fit because if you look around regular Japan, and not in Tokyo, I'm talking about like the regular normal areas, the you will see these modern buildings, but right next to it you will see like this really old house that maybe someone lives in it, maybe not. I see that quite a bit around my area. Uh, I often think about like what kind of place that was because usually it's been shut down, the signs are gone. Don't know what kind of business it was. And then right next to it, you got this brand new office building or a brand new restaurant or something. So it seems to fit somehow. But Japan is also convenient, if anything. Like the konbinis, the convenience stores. You go in there, you can go in there and buy almost anything you want. They have a pretty good selection about things. You got the three main ones: the 7-Elevens, the Lawsons, and Family Mart. Those are the top three. And you got some smaller ones like Daily Yamazaki. Um, you can go in there, and there's no, like in America um, we have laws against selling alcohol after a certain hour. In Japan, you can buy alcohol at any time you want, and you can go stand outside the convenience and drink it. There's no public intox laws here. Uh, you can mail packages. I don't know why you would go to a convenience to mail a package when there's a post office nearby. Um, I mean, it might be more convenient if there is no post office nearby, but in my area, there is a post office right next door to the conveni, and people will still go and mail packages from the conveni. Maybe it's cheaper. I don't know. I've never tried that. Um, and you can order. They have these machines in the conveni, and you can order tickets to go to some theme park or concerts or anything. They're often advertising concerts. Um, Vending machines is another wonderful thing. They are everywhere, and there's even beer vending machines. Um, and I've not seen the infamous panty vending machine. Never saw it. So it's not like that's a common thing. I've lived here for about a decade, and I've never seen that. But vending machines are everywhere, even in the middle of nowhere. Like you'll be driving down this dark road surrounded by rice fields, and there will be this little spot that's lit up because there's a series of vending machines sitting there, and that's everywhere in Japan. The streets are pretty quiet for the most part. There are you will hear the Fast and Furious cars, for a lack of a better term, the racing cars. I call them the Tokyo Drifters, um, but that's not everywhere. I sometimes hear them in my area, but not always. Um, and one other thing that there's also a kind of a myth is that Japan is 100% polite and efficient. It's definitely not. I mean, for the most part, people are polite, um, but you will on occasion meet somebody that's not so polite. I mean, Japanese people are human. The efficiency, in some cases they are, in some cases they're not. If you go to the city office for something, you better take a book or have your phone fully charged because it may take a while to print out like one piece of paper that you need. I don't like going to the city office. Um, that's about that's kind of like the general rundown of a typical life in Japan. If you've been to Japan before, you will understand that. Unless you were only here for a couple of days, then you really wouldn't catch that, and that depends on where you stayed. Um, Now, when you come to Japan, I'm sure you've seen a lot of videos on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube of these people telling you, don't do this while you're in Japan. Most of the time, those videos are nonsense. They are over exaggerated, a lot of false rules, and I get to laughing because they're so obnoxious. On occasion, they will get one right, but it's nothing, you're not going to be crucified for it. Uh, like, one of the ones that really got me laughing was the Japanese don't drink green tea. They most certainly do. If you go to a kombini, you will see in the cooler, you know, several shelves full of different types of green tea. Now, the green tea in Japan is not the same as the green tea in America. I found that out real quick the first time I came to Japan. And I kind of expected it, but it's I didn't expect on how bitter it was going to be. I knew it was not going to be the sweet stuff. Uh, but I was laughing pretty good about hearing that the Japanese don't drink green tea because they most certainly do. If you go to the kaiten sushi place, you can serve yourself green tea at the table. They have a hot water faucet at the table, and you just you just put in some little few scoops of green tea powder, fill up with hot water. There you go. So they definitely do. And if you eat traditional Japanese snacks, yeah, they will typically serve green tea with it. Like if you go to Kyoto and like Kiyomizudera or something, they will give you like the snack, and then there's a little cup of green tea. Even the tea ceremony, you're making green tea. Um, what other ones did I hear about? Oh, the being fat is illegal in Japan. It definitely isn't. I mean, sumo is a thing here. I don't know where they get that. And I've seen plenty of fat Japanese people in my time here. I mean, yeah, majority are skinny or relatively, you know, skinny, but they're not. It's okay to be fat here. Um, there's some obscure ones of like never eat while walking. It's I don't know if I would say it's frowned upon. I don't think anyone really cares because if you watch anime and if you've watched enough of it, you will have noticed that it is a almost a trope that a character will be running late and they're bursting through their front door and they have a piece of bread in their mouth. Well, if one didn't know any better, one would think that you can eat and walk. It's not something that really came to mind. And then I heard that one day that it's considered bad manners, and it just doesn't make any sense to me because again we're talking about efficiency here, and if Japan is efficient, then wouldn't eating and walking be efficient? Because like junior high school students, they some of them have to walk 20 minutes to school, and if they don't eat breakfast, then because they're running late, then why not take walk and eat? You're not. I mean, you can still pay attention to your surroundings while you're eating something. So I don't know what the deal is for that. Um, so yeah, Japan is not as strict as people on the internet claim it is. Um, so usually, if you see one of those videos, don't listen to it. They're usually just trying to get clicks. Um, Now, Japan, it used to be kind of a niche thing. Like to have an interest in Japan, it used to be a niche type of thing. But it's become more of a trend nowadays. like if you go back to say the late 90s or early 2000s, and there was only a handful of people, like if, whether you went to school or whatever, there weren't very many people who liked anime or anything else that's Japan related. And having that interest back then, people might make fun of you or at least think you're weird or something. It wasn't really a popular thing. But nowadays, everything is you know connected to Japan in some way. Um, I'm talking about interest here. Like a lot of people like anime, they'll watch samurai movies. If you watch a lot of, say, American football, their touchdown celebrations are usually anime inspired. If you watch soccer, if you watched, the soccer games when Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, when he died, there was so many people who paid tribute to him at these soccer games, whether it be the fans in the stands or the players themselves. They were honoring him. You would not see that in the 90s had he died back then. And that is also why I think that Dragon Ball is the most popular and most influential anime of all time. One Piece may be going on for the longest time, and if you start that now, you have one hell of a journey to deal with, but that may be a very popular one. Even in Japan, it's very popular, but Dragon Ball, that got everybody in the world to watch anime. Sure, it's formulaic and very repetitive, and it's not necessarily the best story in the world, but it's a fun story. You don't have to take it seriously, but it got people watching anime, and that was one of the first animes that I watched. I'd go to my friend's house after school, and he'd be watching it, and I thought, wow, this is actually interesting. But I never went out of my way to watch it. And then later on, I finally sat down and watched the whole thing, and I thought, wow, this is a pretty decent anime. And my favorite saga being the Android Saga. But it's become, and not just anime, but in Japan in general, has become mainstream. And now a lot of people, if you especially if you go to YouTube, you will see a lot of people making videos about Japan, and you'll have a lot of podcasts going on about it. Yes, this is also very uncut. I'm not going to be cutting out my coughs or my ums and things. I mean, that's why they call me the Tayori Nai Sensei. I am the unreliable teacher. So actually, I might have to cut that part out. Um, but when you come to Japan, you'll see a lot of different types of people. You got the typical visitors, the who try to appreciate the culture, and they kind of you know try to learn about it. You got the problematic foreigners. They just do things just for views. We all know some of them. I'm not going to get into them. I don't know if I ever will because we see a lot enough videos about them. Um, there are the people who live here who think that Japan is perfect and won't acknowledge Japan's flaws. Um, and then you got the people who live here who don't like it but won't leave. I'm not that. I love Japan. I think it's I think it's a wonderful place to live, great place to raise my kids. Um, my whole clan of kids. But it definitely has its flaws, and there are parts of it that I, will criticize. And I'll leave that for another episode. If you guys come back to listen to that one, if anybody's actually listening to this now, I'm a bit surprised by that. Um, but yeah, you have a variety of things to look at when you come to Japan. So when you come here, don't expect this sci-fi wonderland because it's not. Uh, yeah, you will be impressed with some of the stuff that it does, and like I mentioned a few bits earlier. But um, like they do have automate a lot of automated stuff, and that can be annoying as hell sometimes. Um, the Shinkansen, the bullet train, that has that is a wondrous thing. Uh, Although I don't typically like taking that one. Um, I do now because I have kids, and whenever we travel, you want to get to that location as fast as possible because my kids are young still, the whole clan of them. And when I say clan, I'm not exaggerating. Someone's got to try to fix the country here and save it from losing everybody because Japan does have a birthing problem. There's a lot of old people, and that's one of the things well, I don't want to say I criticize the old people. I criticize the fact that nobody dies here. They live to be like 400 years old. But that's a topic for another episode if you guys come back to this one. Um, but yeah, the Shinkansen, it will get you where you need to go really quickly. But before I got married and when I was traveling alone, I would take the local trains. And yes, that is a very long train ride. Even if you're only going a few prefectures over, it can lengthen your trip. But that's all right because you get to see real Japan. The Shinkansen will just it flies by. You, you don't get to see anything. But on the local trains, you can you can see the real Japan. And there was this, I don't know if they still do it now, but there at least used to be a a special ticket, and it's called the Seishun Juhachi Kippu. And that ticket was only good for local trains, and but you pay however much it was. It was pretty considering the what you could use it for. It was actually a decent price, but you could use it unlimited for 5 days. And so if you're traveling from one place to another and you get off somewhere in between and you stay for a couple of hours or something and then you can get back on the train, and it's all you got to do is just show the person at the gate that you have it, and they'll wave you through, and you can do that as many times as you want within a day. um, and so it's good for up to 5 days, and it's definitely worth it, I think. So if you're traveling alone, or if with a partner or something you could do if you live here or you're staying here for a lengthy period of time. Um, but when you travel here, of course, there's always the big travel spots that everybody wants to see. However, depending on what you're into, I would recommend not going to those places because a lot of people they go to Tokyo and Kyoto, Osaka, Nara. They always got to see the deer in Nara. And maybe some people will go to Hiroshima because of the atomic bomb, and by extension to Nagasaki. But Nagasaki's kind of out of the way. It's all the way at the bottom of Kyushu, so if you don't make it down there, I wouldn't be surprised. But there's so many other places to go check out, like Sendai. Sendai is one of my favorite cities, and that's up in Miyagi. That's the capital city of Miyagi, and it's the biggest city in Tohoku, but it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel very big. Um, and one of my favorite historical people from Japan's history, Date Masamune, he ruled over that area. that's one of my favorite places to go. Going up to Hokkaido, uh, go to Aomori, Akita, Niigata, even go to Shikoku. If you're into the anime Naruto, that's there's a there's a city name like where he got his name, and that's on the Shikoku Island, and he got his name, and there's a symbol for his clan, the spiral. Well, there's the famous whirlpools in the because it's a coastal city in the ocean, and it's famous for the whirlpools. So there's a lot of cultural references to Japan when you if you watch Naruto. Um, I've been to about half of the different prefectures. Um, Okinawa, a lot of people go to Okinawa, and my my we went down there, and my family we went down there a few summers ago, and people go to Okinawa typically for the beaches, and they got a nice aquarium over there. And also, one tip when you go to Okinawa, it's if you have an international license, it's if you want to travel outside of Nara, it's good to rent a car, um, because there's no public transportation that goes outside of Nara. Like they have the monorail in Nara, they got buses in Nara, but that's about it. If you want to go south of Nara, north of Nara, then or wow. See, this is why I'm the Toyota Nice Sensei. 'Cause I'm saying Nara, Naha, Naha, Naha. Damn it, Naha is the capital of Okinawa, and there's no public transportation outside of Naha. Oh man, I'm gonna get a bunch of comments for that one if anyone's listening to this. Uh, but if you want to go to the nice aquarium that they have north of Naha, then you will have to rent a car if you're capable. Um, for me, everyone else, like I said, beaches, the aquarium, other places like that. Me, because I'm a history buff, I go check out the history because the whole island is basically a World War II battleground. And if you've seen the movie Hacksaw Ridge, that's on Okinawa. And it was, when I went there, it was surreal to be there, to know the history behind it. And they even have a sign talking about that, and also one that's talking about how the movie was about that location too. So they do acknowledge that history. If you go to South Okinawa, and there's another part in the I think it's Itoman area, they have a Himeyuri museum. And the Himeyuri, and I will do a full thing on this later in another episode, the Himeyuri were schoolgirls, and they were basically drafted into the war, helping the Japanese army, and then most of them died. Um, there's a museum down there, and you learn quite a bit about them. One thing that does annoy me with Japanese culture, well, I don't want to say it's culture, but these practices that they do with their museums is that a lot of them you can't take pictures of a lot of the stuff inside. Some places you can, and some museums will have a mixture of it, so they will have signs that say you can take a picture here, but not over here. Um, in the Himeyuri Museum, you can't take a picture at all inside, which really annoyed me because they had such cool things to look at, and I want to tell that story to everybody because it's something you don't learn about in the States or even outside of Japan. I don't know of anybody outside of Japan that learned about it in school. Um, so that's what I wanted to do going down to Okinawa. Um, So yeah, if you want to come to Japan and if you're staying for a lengthy period of time, try to go places that not everyone else is going to. Sure, if you want to go to Kyoto or something. I'm not saying don't go there, but it will definitely, you know, help you if you go to other places too. Um, and don't be a pain in the ass tourist, because Japan does not like them at all. Um, I think I don't think there's any. Well, yeah, a few castles. Every prefecture's got a castle, so you can go check out castles. Um, they got every prefecture has something special about it. Um, whether it be like World Heritage sites, there's quite a few in Japan. Um, they got their own, like, you can go see the sand dunes in Totori. I think that's yeah, Totori. Um, you can go see all kinds of stuff all throughout the country that nobody really goes to. Um, you can even go to the dark, be a dark tourist, like go to the Fukushima uh, exclusion zone. I've been there. I went there a few years ago, about 6 years ago, and they're opening that area back up. I'm going to do another episode on that as well to be more specific, but go into more details with that one. Um, but you can set up a tour. Like they do have tours that's sponsored by the prefectural government, and they will take you into the exclusion zone, and you can see these areas, these towns that are trapped in 2011. Um, and you can even go up the whole Sanriku coastline, like Sendai, Minami Sanriku, Ishinomaki, Keisanuma, Rika Takata. You can go all those places that were hit by the tsunami, and they all have these memorial sites. Again, this will be another episode I'll do that with. Um, so those are just some examples that you could try out if you ever come here. Those places I recommend more so than Osaka or Kyoto or even Tokyo. Uh, so I think that's going to be it for this particular podcast. I don't know when the next one will be. Once I get a permanent idea that I want to do, I got a list of things, but I haven't decided which one I'm going to choose for the next episode. And that'll come out whenever I decide, or whenever the kids let me do it, because they are the boss. So maybe it will be, more in depth about traveling places. It could even be about Toshi Densetsu, which are urban legends. It could be criminal cases. Japan is a safe country, but it has its fair share. Um, I might even jump into the more pop culture side of things. Like, I grew up in the 90s, born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s. So I liked Power Rangers. And most people know that Power Rangers originated in Japan, called Super Sentai. And I do plan on making an episode for each Sentai. So if you are interested in that, you can listen to those episodes. If not, then don't listen to those episodes. Uh, those alone, I have my work cut out for me because right now, Sentai number 50 is airing. So I'm going to be starting all the way from the beginning. That came out in 1975. So that's it for this time, and which is perfect timing because I think my radio is losing power. I think it's either going to finally die or it just wants to sleep. I don't know. It's starting to flicker. So until next time, whenever that will be.